Okay, so this week I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. We've been going over all the different roles of people in the church. We went over the Constitution, what we believe, and a few other different items that kind of drive who we are as a church. But this week, what I wanted to do was focus in on something that you may or may not have picked up on in the section about an executive pastor. One of the things the executive pastor is responsible for is ensuring that there are some kind of regular communications that take place with the church. What we're talking about are business meetings. Now, I think I figured out a way that we can maybe package a business meeting in a way that a lot of people in the church family maybe see it as being more accessible, where it's not just a thing where everybody shows up, you listen to those people run their mouths, and then everybody goes home. What we saw during COVID were a lot of people virtualized many aspects of their church, including things that were like business meetings. And the way I saw this happen in some instances, and something that I think might work for us, where I want your feedback on whether you think it would work, is there was some form of a kickoff. Now, this was something that in some instances I've seen it done live. I've seen people have a small group of people and then they just record it or they stream it. In some instances, I've seen it just done on Zoom. You saw this in the middle of the pandemic. And so there'd be an amount of a kickoff, and the kickoff was nothing huge. It was something, we're talking 15 minutes, something like that. Very brief, just this is why we're here, this is what we're doing, this is what we're talking about, here's how it's going to work. And you put that out there. After that, people have the opportunity to be able to access something virtually, either on a mobile-friendly website or something like that. It could even be like a Google form type of thing that gives them a little bit of information in small little digestible bites and maybe even gets their opinion on things. What's kind of nice about this is because you are giving people something that they can interact with, then you're able to really personalize what kind of information you want. Instead of having to have these big referendums or anything, you can have just very simple questions right there. Something that says, what's your opinion on doing something every year around Christmas and Easter as a church commitment? Bam, done. That's all you have to have. And some people say, yes, we should do it. No, we shouldn't do it. Or we should do it on a year-by-year basis. Well, that's an example of something right there. We've been able to basically get a referendum on this one issue of doing events during these holidays from the church. You can see how this gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to have things that are official and things that are unofficial. It also gives us the ability of having some amount of, for lack of a better phrase, role taking, something to actually say who are individuals that are identifying themselves as being people who want to have this type of say in the church. Legally, this becomes very useful because in the event that somebody from either the Virginia Corporation Commission or something like that would want to take a look at our church, then one of the things they're going to ask are, who are your quote-unquote members? And so this gives you a way of being able to say, well, these are people who identified as members, because when we did this virtualized business meeting, they identified themselves as a person who has a stake. So after you give people an amount of time, a week, seems like it kind of makes sense, then you end up having basically a wrap-up at the end of the week that can be done in the same way as the kickoff. A short little video, something that's live streamed or something that's in person to say, well, this is what we talked about. This seems like what kind of came in from all of this. Does anybody have any last nickels that they want? And then if not, you close it up and that's it. So what you're able to see here is a way of taking what is possibly the driest part of being a part of a church and then making it a little bit more accessible for everybody, regardless of what your schedule is or what your bandwidth is or what your attention span is. You can take it in little tiny bite-sized pieces, or you can just sit here when you have some time, pop open your phone, scroll through it, consider the things, give your input, and then you're done. So this is one of the ways that with the well, it seemed like we could address some of the things we would want to address, but do it in a way that it was kind of still keeping in the spirit of this decentralized church that we have. If you think about it, the way that we worship is something where we have tried to make it so that we don't just say we're meeting people where they are, but instead we actually are trying to make something as easily accessible as possible with where they are at spiritually. So it only makes sense that we would do the same thing when it comes comes to the business of the church. So what do you think? Does something like this seem like it would make sense? Do you think it would become more accessible to a church member to have a business meeting that is done this way rather than the traditional getting everybody in a room once a quarter, once every half year, and then just barraging them with reports? What do you think? Let's see if maybe this doesn't make being a part of a church family a little bit easier, at least in this one area that seems to scare off so many. Thank you again for your willingness to serve. I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing your feedback.